Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Hope that we're live. We'll do a few tests, make sure that everything's okay, and then we'll get started. So, let's see. I want to make sure that I am live. 1 2 1 2. Testing. Can somebody confirm with me on the chat if you're seeing anything? Is anyone there? I want to make sure that things are working okay. Yes, okay, great, I'm here. Great, perfect. Good morning, everyone. So there is a slight delay between the comments and me reading the comments, so I'm sorry, but we'll get started. And yes, I did get a haircut, but hopefully that doesn't affect anything today. Great to see everyone. Thank you for being here. This video is being recorded, so you will have access to this video later on during the week or during the month, whenever. It's going to be there for you as long as you have the link. So don't worry if you have to go anywhere or if you missed something, or this is recorded, so we're all good. You should have received a PDF pack with some charts, some diagrams, some links, and some ideas also. And we're going to use that as a guideline. So I have my charts here, and we're just going to follow this. How is the quality of the audio? Is everything working okay? Let's try a backing track. Is it clear? Everything working okay? Great. All right, let's get started. So let me give you an outline of what we're going to talk about. We're going to start pretty simple by reminding people of some of the tools that we can use: the minor pentatonic scale, the minor blues scale, the major blues scale. Talk a little bit about positions and how to use them and the rules behind them, and then we'll go into more interesting things in the second part of the lesson, where we'll study some unconventional scales, some exotic scales that you can add to your blues playing, to your improvisation. But we're going to start with just a reminder of the basic general tools. And hopefully you see this on the screen. I tried to make things as easy as possible for people to follow. I have written down, charted the minor pentatonic scale, the minor blues scale on there. There is a difference between minor pentatonic and minor blues. The only difference is the blue note, which in this case is a white note in the diagrams that I wrote, the transparent note. This is not a very, it's not a solid note, and in the sense that it's an outside note. It's a passing tone. So if you land on it, it's going to sound a little tensed, but you can still use it, and that's what creates the bluesy character of that. And then after that, we'll take a look at the major blues scales, which you should see right now on your diagram. The screen should change a little bit. slightly different. But these scales have some common things. The first thing is they all have 5 notes. Penta means 5, so they have 5 notes. The major pentatonic scale has 5 notes. The minor pentatonic scale has 5 notes. The minor blues scale is a minor pentatonic scale with that additional white note or blue note, however you want to call it. So it's a 6-note scale, and same for the major blues. So that's the difference. A minor blues is a minor pentatonic scale in which we're adding a blue note, and a major blues is a major pentatonic scale, 5-note scale to which we're adding a blue note also, so that it becomes 6-note scales. Let's go to the minor blues scale, and I want to remind everyone of a rule, a music theory rule that I used mostly in classical music. And if you've seen my video two videos ago, I think I talked about this, but it's good to remind things a little bit. Music theory says that you need to match elements together. In other words, if you have a chord that has a minor third in there, your scale needs to have a minor third. If you have a chord that has a major third, your scale needs a major third, so that elements match together. Music theory says that you cannot match different elements together. You can't use a minor third with a major chord. It's not going to work. Of course, music rules are broken all the time, and that's a good thing, because if we did not break the rules every once in a while, and if we didn't expand, we would all sound the same, and all musical styles would pretty much sound the same, and that's not what music is about. But you need to understand that rule in order to fit some concepts sometimes, and develop new concepts. So that's the general rule, okay? Match elements together. Now, blues sounds very unique to the listener. You can tell that there are some bluesy influences in the blues. And I say that a lot, but if Beethoven came back in modern day today and heard the blues, he would be really confused, because he was not accustomed to that sound. And what creates the sound of the blues is actually a break in the traditional rules. And it's hard for blues players sometimes to get into jazz or classical music or fusion, because they have to learn a new set of rules, and that's why it's hard sometimes for people to get into modes when they come from a blues background. But just remember that the elements need to match with each other. So, that being said, let's take a look at what makes the blues blues. What makes the blues blues, there's a lot of things, of course. There's the phrasing aspect of things, and there's the way that you play on your guitar. But from a theory side, or from a rule side, the rule in the blues is this. On a minor chord, you use a minor scale. So far the rule is like the traditional music theory rule. A minor scale works on a minor chord. The traditional music says that on a major chord you'll need a major scale. But blues says that yes, that's true, but we're going to break that a little bit, and on a major chord you can also use a minor scale. And that has never been heard before in the story of music theory. There's a historical reason to that, because blues is really born from a clash of cultures, of musical cultures that came together. There's the European culture, the colons, when they colonized America, they came with the set of musical background that they grew up with. All those great classical composers came from Europe, and then they colonized America, and they had their set of rules. And the African people who were enslaved at the time in America, they came with their own musical background, which is a little bit different from the European background. And when both cultures got together, which happened where most of the times musically, it happened in churches. The gospel, it happened in churches where you had these the European background, musical background that came with all the hymns and a very traditional style of music, hymns composed by great classical people from Europe. And then you had the African culture who came, and both cultures came together in those churches that created the gospel music. And because they had slightly different sets of rules that clashed, sounded like a mix of two different cultures, and the closest we can get to recreate that is by breaking the traditional rule of music, which says that on a minor chord you need a minor scale, major chord you need a major scale, by saying that yes, that's still valid in the blues, but in order to reproduce that clash of culture, of musical culture that happened in the churches in the at the time of when both cultures got together, that created the blues. And so yes, you still use those traditional rules in blues, but you can also break that rule by using a minor scale over a major chord. That's all. You don't do it the other way around. You cannot use a major scale over a minor chord, but you can use a minor scale over a major chord in the blues. So that's what we're going to explore today. Along with other concepts, we're going to try to go a little bit further with that. But that's basically where the blues comes from. All right, so that being said, we're going to look at, we're going to discuss just a little bit phrasing, what phrasing means. Phrasing is just like speech, really. When you're talking, you have your own intonation, your own accent, your own set of words, your own, all that. So we're going to try to explore some phrasing concepts using these scales together to develop our own voice on the instrument, our own color. So how does this work? And I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted by it. I've got too many things on my screen here going on, so if you see me kind of distracted, that's why. I'm trying to clean up things a little bit. And okay, I think I managed. So I can see your comments at the same time. All right, so phrasing. Most of the times, the most effective speeches are the ones that are really simple. And it's something that I try to do in my lessons. I try to simplify everything so that the listener, the receiver of the information, can relate to it a little bit more and expand on it. But I don't want to give too much. I want you to make your own kind of thought process and conclusions with that. So starting simple is a great way for the listener to internalize things and to develop that in their own. So as we're going through this, I want people to remember that development is really important, starting really slow. So in other words, if I want to explain to you, I don't know, the why it rains sometimes, I'm not going to start by giving you all the super technical scientific explanations of that. I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to start probably approaching it very simple by talking maybe about the constitution of a cloud, the fact that cloud carries water, and then I'll explain where the water comes from, but I'll start very gradually. Same with music. I don't want to start with very complex ideas right away in my improv, because if I did, there's no development. So I don't want to do that. I'll probably start really simple by giving you just a few very simple sentences to give you the context, by sticking to the rules probably first. Very simple idea. And then later on, once I talk to you about what I'm gonna speak, once I give you a few short sentences, I'll probably add some more complex ideas. But so remember that as we're going through this. All right, so let's take a look at this chart here, the minor blues chart. For now, you're going to try to dissociate the fact that there are some white notes in there, the blue notes. Just try to forget about that. This blues scale, this minor pentatonic scale, not blues, minor pentatonic, so we're not looking at those white notes. It's made of 5 notes, 5 different notes, and each one of these notes have a function. The first note is the root. That's what attracts all the other notes. That's what gives meaning to all the other notes. The second note is a minor third, a minor third. And the third is very important in a scale or a chord because that gives the nature of a scale. If you're hearing about a minor scale, it means that it has a minor third. A minor chord has a minor third also. And that's important later on when we're going to break that rule. Then we'll have a perfect fourth, which is very stable notes, and a perfect fifth, which is very, very stable too. So you have 2 very stable notes, the fourth and the fifth. When I mean stable, I mean that they resonate quite well with the root. That's a fourth, that's a fifth. They resonate really well as opposed to maybe this note. The frequencies of both notes here, they're not really aligned, whereas the fourth and the fifth, if you analyze the frequencies, they would move in a similar way. But if you look at the blue note, which is the white note here, it's right in between 2 very stable notes, right in between the fourth and right between the fifth, which are found in the scale. And the blue note is an unstable note, so it creates tension. Right? So those are the first 4 notes of a pentatonic scale, not a blue note, not the blues in the scale, but a pentatonic scale, and then we have a minor seventh. So these notes, these 5 notes, are repeated all over the fretboard. And if I were to map out my fretboard with all these 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can repeat these notes in a lot of different ways on the fretboard. And I would have a huge fretboard, very difficult to memorize. So instead of doing that, we break it in positions, shapes, areas of the fretboard. And there's 5 of them. 5 different shapes here that are on the right side of your screen. So these each one of these shapes starts with one of the notes of the pentatonic scale. And a lot of players use the first position only because if you look at the way that first position is built, again, don't consider the blue notes. There's 2 notes per string. So we can see that, and this happens on all the 5 positions. 2 notes per string. So that means there's a left note and a right note, no matter where you're looking at. And on that first position, which is the top one, all the left notes starts from the same fret. If we're in G minor pentatonic, they all start on the 3rd fret. So on the left side, you'll only have those frets number 3. On the right side, we'll have frets number 6, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6. So there's a slight change there. And because all these positions are all related to each other, they're part of the same scale, that means that the right notes, if you look at the first position, all the right notes are the same exact notes as the left notes of the second position. Can you see that? If you kind of move your focal point to the next position, you can see that these notes align themselves. If you hide all the left notes of the first position and you hide all the right notes of the second position, you'll see the same exact frets. In other words, any 2 consecutive scale positions are going to share half of their notes in the middle. So back to this story of left notes and right notes. People tend to gravitate around that first position for 2 reasons. The first reason is that, well, that position starts with a root, so it's simple. It's simple to play in that position right away because the first note that you're playing is the root and you build your position from there. The second reason is that that position, actually it's not a real reason. Never mind, forget that. I'll tell you anyways. The second reason is that all of the bendable notes sound good, but that's not a valid reason because the bendable notes sound good on any positions. It's that's what we're going to talk about. But the problem with just sticking to that first position is because all the bendable notes, the notes that you can bend easily, are so easy, they are going to focus on the same notes all the time. The same intervals are going to be bent all the time. So that's the problem. If I'm in G, the bendable notes are probably going to be the ones that are the very first one. I bet you play that all the time. Is the one on the third string, 1, 2, 3, the right note, which in this case in the fifth fret. You probably bend that all the time on a G minor pentatonic. I bet that 80% of all solos start with that note bent. Maybe the 25 other percent start with this one. On the second string, 1, 2, the right note. And that's why all blues solos, a lot of blues solos sound the same. You heard that over and over and over. So I want to start by encouraging people to develop other positions. Nobody's writing comments, which is fine. Probably means that you're listening, but can someone just confirm that I'm still live? And there's a little delay between when I said that and when you typed, so I'll check the comments. But just let me know if I'm still live, and I'll continue. So the first goal is to really memorize all our scale positions, which is going to be handy later on. So how do you do that? Well, the first position, people memorize that because, well, the visual reference point is the root, and that happens on the very first note that you're playing if you're ascending your scale. So now that that's why most people play with that first position. Visual reference points are very important when you're phrasing and when you want to develop all over the fretboard. And visual reference points are going to be the roots all the time. So people are usually comfortable finding the roots on the 6th string and the 5th string. Let's take a look at the 6th string. We know that the first position is built in a way where the root is found on that 6th string, which is the first string that you see. Actually, it doesn't make much sense, but you start counting from the bottom, the 6th string. Are there any other positions that have a root on the 6th string? And David has a great question. Are there chord inversions for each position? Yes, but instead of thinking in that term, I would encourage you to try to find a standard position within each of one of these, because there are some. And I'll send a follow-up chart to this if you want, with those chords written in there. Okay, thank you for confirming. So, are there any other positions that have a root on the 6th string? The second position, no. Roots are on strings 2 and 4. The third position, root is on the 5th string, doesn't work. Same for the 4th. However, the 5th position, yes, the 5th position, the root is on the 6th string, so that's very good. That means that since position 1 and 5 have the root on the 6th string, they're actually very close to each other. It doesn't look like it on the chart. One is here and the other one is all the way to the right, but you know that the fretboard repeats itself. So the 5th position that is all the way up there, that in this case starts on fret number 15, if you take it an octave lower, it starts on fret number 1. In order to add or subtract octave, just add 12 to that number. So if you're on fret number 15 minus 12, you'll be on fret number 3. So both of these positions share the same root. So let's start with that. We can play our first position, G minor pentatonic. On the left of that, we can look at position 5 and imagine that that red note on position 5 is actually played on fret number 3. These notes are part of the same scale. Even though position number 5 does not start with the root, it's still part of the scale. What makes the key is not the note you're starting from, or the area of the fretboard you're playing in, but it's the attraction that these notes, the meaning that these notes have. And the meaning is given by the attraction that these notes have with the root, or the key. So that's how you kind of work out your positions. You try to find the visual reference points, and you kind of build them from there. Positions 3 and 4 go together also, and can you see why? You see that, and there's a delay, so I'm not going to wait for the answer, but it's because the root is found on the 5th string for both of positions 3 and 4, so both of these positions, they're close to each other, they surround each other. And as you're developing these positions, this fretboard knowledge, you'll see that the notes that you're comfortable bending, most likely on strings 3 and 2, are not going to fall in the same intervals. And that's going to change a little bit the color that you're getting. If I'm still in G minor pentatonic, I'm going to play over this G blues backing track that is included in your pack. You should have gotten a download. I'm going to explore these 5 positions and bend several notes, and you'll see that the color changes slightly. I'll start with the first position. Okay, you've heard those bends over and over. Position 2. See, the notes bend, the bended notes change meaning a little bit. Instead of position 3. Position 4. Position 5, which is also found on the left, just before. But we'll play it an octave higher. Alright, so these bends are going to change slightly depending on where you're bending. So that's how you build your positions. Alright, let's move on to the major pentatonic scale. I'm sorry about the blurry screen. It might be because of your connection, unless it's happening for everyone. I'm not sure. Hopefully it'll fix itself. Maybe you might want to refresh also. Let's look at the major blues. So slightly different, the same thing. You can build your positions with that. By the way, if you've been playing for a while, there's a lot of players who tend to think that the minor blues and the major blues are the same. You just move your fingers to a different position, and it's the same. It's very different. Although you will find similar shapes, those shapes are extremely, the scales are very different, because what makes the scale is not the shape, but it's the intervals that make that scale that is different. So same thing here. Try to, as you're working through those things, try to develop that. Now let's go back to that rule that we said. Over a major chord in a blues context, you can use a major scale, a major pentatonic scale, and a minor scale, which has never been heard before, but you can do that. Over a minor chord, you can only use a minor scale. So we're going to start with a few licks here, a few ideas, and they're all on your charts here. We'll start with minor blues licks. Minor blues licks. So we're going to use some of those white notes. What can those minor blues licks work on? Well, we know that a minor scale can work over a minor chord, but in the blues it can also work on a major chord. So those are going to work over your backing tracks, which are major blues tracks. So over a major chord, I can use my major pentatonic and a minor. So let's take a look at the first lick, for example, which is on page 4 of your charts. We're in E. All these licks are in E. So over an E major blues, for example, which is this backing track right here. Whoop, where is it? This one right here. I can play an E major pentatonic scale or an E minor. They would all work. So let's take a look at that lick. And I'm landing on that blue note, but I'm raising it so that it's. I should probably go to the other chart. Sorry, the minor blues. I'm using that first position here, but I'm in E, so that red note becomes the 12th fret because these are written in G, but I'm in E, so I need to shift that to E. So if I have that. That will work on a minor chord and a major chord. Let's hear that in context. Everything works fine there, right? And that's because of that blues rule that says that, well, you can match elements. We're not going to go through all those licks. Those are for you to explore. But all those first licks are just minor blues licks, which are great to start with because they will work over major chords and minor chords also in minor blues. So these first licks, they use a root on the 6th string as a visual reference point, which means that they're built around positions 1 and 5, right? 5 is just before the first position. So as you're going through these licks, try to recognize where this happens on the fretboard, which positions are being used. And then I included some licks that have their roots on, this is the PDF that you have, then that are built around positions with the root on the 5th string. So which positions would that be? That would be positions 3 and 4. In other words, if you're in E minor pentatonic context, you need to find your root on the 5th string, which is, in this case, the 7th fret. That's an E. On the right side of that root, you would have position 4, because position 4, you see the red note there on the 5th string. Everything happens on the right side of that root. And on the left side, you would have position 3. Okay? So those are the other licks that use these positions. I'm trying to move on because I really want to get into the playing outside the exotic scales. After that, we have major blues licks. Major blues licks use major pentatonic scales. So I'll change my chart here to major pentatonic scales. And same principle. You're going to have a series of licks that are built with the root on the 6th string as a visual reference point. So in this case, same thing. It would be positions 1 and 5, but these positions are slightly different because we're in a major context. And then you'll have licks that are using positions 3 and 4 with the root on the 5th string. So because these licks are in a major context, major pentatonic scale, these will work over a major chord, but they cannot work over a minor chord. Remember that rule? You can, on a minor chord, you can use anything you want, minor scale or major scale. On a major chord, you can only use major. Or the other way around. On a minor chord, you can only use minor scales. So these series of licks are only going to work on major chords. Let's try Let's see, let's try the first lick. We're on the major blues licks. These are in G major, and we'll use the root on the 6th string as a visual reference point. And if I look at that first position, by the way, when you learn licks, take a look at the notes first, and then look at the rhythm. In this case, the rhythm is just 3 series of 16th notes. So taka 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 da taka 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 da. But first, look at the notes that we have. Memorize the notes. Okay, so those are the notes that I have. Again, they're on your chart, and then you apply your taka 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 da taka 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 da. Okay. Only work on a major chord. On a minor chord, it would sound horrible. So let's try that in context over our backing track. We're in G major. That's a major pentatonic. I can also use a minor pentatonic. And blend both together. Okay? Alright. Enough of these licks. There's a lot to explore here, but I want to get into the more exotic things a little bit, which is really interesting because you can play outside, and that's where it can really sound a little bit different. The first step towards exotic playing is to simply blend these two types of scales together. The minor blues scale, which is showing on your screen right now, and the major blues scale, which is showing on your screen right now. But as you're doing this, you don't want to shift positions. You want to use the same position. So if you look at the first position on the top of the minor pentatonic scale, you have your position that is built between frets 3 and 6, in this case, if you're in G. And then you look at the major pentatonic, which is built around the same area of the fretboard, and you can blend both of these scales together. That is going to create a huge scale. So instead of confusing you or confusing the listener, also, what you can do is just use the principal elements of the scale and blend them together. You know that a minor pentatonic scale is going to work all the time, right? The minor pentatonic scale works on a minor chord and a major chord. So why not build our scale around the minor pentatonic shape and add a major third to it? Just like that. So basically, I'm creating a 6-note scale, the 5-note minor pentatonic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to which I'm adding a major third, which is just 1 fret higher than the minor third. So if you look at your minor thirds here on the chart, the minor thirds are just the next note after the root. In this particular scale, we have 3. We have 1 on the 6th string, 6th fret. So 1 fret higher is your major pentatonic, and then you continue your scale. 3rd string, 3rd fret, that's your minor pentatonic that you can make a major by lifting it a half step above. Then you continue your scale. Minor pentatonic scale, a half step above. So that's what we have. We have 6 notes now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are found in other positions. But you can blend both elements together. Let's try this scale over our backing track. Okay. No problem there, right? It works. So, of course, we can, instead of just playing it the normal way, we can bend from the minor third to the major third, but you've got to be very precise in your bends. You want to bend so that your bend really lands on the major third, which is a half step above. And you can do that with all the other positions also. It's gonna add a very nice country type of flavor. Okay, so that's the basic the basic rule. This is very traditional type of blues. Let's get into more obscure types of things. All right, we're back. Now we're getting into the exotic scale section, which is really interesting. There's a few, and I want to focus mostly on the whole tone scale, which was the subject of yesterday's video, and the diminished scale, and a little bit of the augmented scale also. These scales are quite interesting. They're symmetrical. Well, symmetrical. Kind of. You can find some symmetrical aspects within these different scales. Let's start with the whole tone. We'll develop a little bit more further than the video that was uploaded yesterday. The whole tone scale is basically you just have whole steps between every note of the scale, which is why it's symmetrical, because if you can find a shape within your symmetrical scale, within your whole tone scale, you could start that same shape from any note of the scale. So there's a lot of interesting shapes that you can use. So when can you use the whole tone scale? You can use it any time you want, but it's going to sound outside. The best way to use one of these exotic scales is during a transition, because when you're changing chords, if you have a simple 1-4-5, a G7 chord, a C7, and a D7, there's you can hear the change, right? There's a dramatic, quote unquote, turn of events, Dream Theater quote, but there's something. The whole thing changes there. We're still in the same key, but there's something that changed. And to accentuate that change, you can create tension and then release on the change. So if you have, I'll simplify. You just have 4 beats on every chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then C7, 2, 3, 4, go to D7, 2, 3, 4, and then G7. You could start playing in by using one of the pentatonic scales that we just talked about, and then maybe on the third beat, you could start going outside and then back in to create that tension and release, tension, release, tension, release. So if we have four beats, beat 1 would be in, so maybe minor pentatonic, minor penta, minor penta, minor penta, whole tone scale, and then back to pentatonic. Whole tone, penta, whole tone, and so forth. So the cool thing when we're playing outside is that you don't have to stick to a key because you're playing outside. So the whole tone scale, even though it's good to play it in G, because if you're in G blues, you can actually play it from G sharp. It really doesn't matter. You can play it from anywhere you want. That's kind of my philosophy for that scale. Play it from anywhere you want. So why not start playing your pentatonic scale? For in 16th notes, so 4 notes per beat, taka 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 outside, taka 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 outside. You would have your pentascale. And then I was outside on the last beat, playing whole tone. Can be a little bit difficult to start playing whole tone right away. So if you look at your scale, the whole tone scale, which is on your charts. Sorry, I didn't have time to make a in-screen thing here, but it's in your charts. You'll find that on strings 2 and 3, those strings are exactly the same. So if you have a fret on the third, if you have a note on the third fret of the third string, you also have a note on the third fret of the second string, and all that separated by a full step. So maybe create a simple lick like that. Let's say that we're starting with this note right here, the B flat note on the third string, third fret. I can create something like frets 3, 5, 3, 5 again on the second string. That would be whole tone. Those can be my 4 notes on my 4th beat. So pentatonic, taka 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 taka. Taka 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 taka. And I can start from anywhere I want because I'm playing outside. It doesn't matter. Maybe on the 3rd fret. Taka 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 taka. It doesn't matter. So let's try to add that to our pentatonic scale. Maybe. Or this is 1, 2, 3. That would work. Let's try this over a blues, and I'll try to create that tension. First, I'm going to listen to where those chords are changing. This is all G. Here's my next chord. So it did happen after 4 beats. We had 2, 3, 4, 1. And that changes there. Or however many notes you want to play. But let's try that. I'll play minor pentatonic, and then on the 4th beat I'll play outside. You heard it there. I'll try that again. And I'm only using strings 2 and 3. You heard it there, right? In, out, but you have to resolve in. So that's the idea with all these outside types of scales. The whole tone scale is great for that because it's symmetrical. And when you're playing outside, really, more than the choice of notes, it's really a rhythm type of thing when you're playing outside, and that's why symmetrical scales are great for that, because they facilitate the taka 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 taka. They facilitate that when you're playing outside. So that's why anytime you can find some symmetrical shapes, interesting shapes that you can repeat, they're going to work outside. And why not just make up your own shape and use it in a symmetrical way? Let's just pick a random shape, starting on string number 5, and we'll build something with 4 notes. Starting with string number 5, ascending, I'll have frets 3, 4, 5, and 6. This doesn't make any sense, really, in our minor pentatonic context. It really doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to try to make it make sense by playing it and playing a lick that is going to repeat itself, maybe in a chromatic way, or maybe, why not, a whole tone way, just 2 frets above. And try to create that tension. I'll try to make that tension a little bit longer than I did previously. Let's see what happens. I'll start in, always start in, because if you want to start by outside, no, just start in to ease into the conversation. So maybe start minor pentatonic. Maybe start the hybrid scale by using minor pentatonic in the major third. I'll try to use that. That is another one. Another outside idea. So really going in terms of shapes. Yes, Bram's asking a great question. Am I using lateral movements? Yes, I am. I'm using the same exact shape, lateral. And as far as where do I go next, it doesn't matter. I don't really think in terms of that, as long as it's it has direction. So in this case, I decided to do that shape a whole step above each time. Or maybe a half step above. Or maybe a minor third above. It doesn't matter as long as there's continuity and as long as you can do a rhythm thing with it. You don't want to have rhythm incoherence, like not good. You want to have something very continuous that the listener can at least relate to something, which is your tekka tekka tekka, or your rhythm thread. That kind of thing. All right, so that's the whole tone scale. There's several ways to playing it, but you can make your own shapes, of course. But let's take a look at 2. I'll make a close-up for this, because on the diagram that you have, I listed the scale all over the fretboard. But you can use this in a 3-note per string type of thing. So the 3 notes per strings would be, if you're in G, the 6th string frets 3, 5, and 7, and big stretch here, so I've got my index, ring, and then stretch with the pinky. That's the shape. You know that every note is separated by a full step. The full step after that will be here on the 9th fret, but that will be a 4-note per string, so we can find this 9th fret, which is C sharp, on the 5th string, 4th fret. So that means that from that 5th string 4th fret, you can repeat the same shape. And you know that the guitar is tuned in fourths, except between the 2nd and the 3rd string that's tuned in a major third. So anytime you're not involving strings 2 and 3 together, you can use the same interval. So it's basically this shape. On the next string, 1 fret higher. Next string, 1 fret higher. Next string, 1 fret higher. On the next string, because of that weird tuning between the 2nd string and the 3rd string, we're going to have to move 2 frets above. And then back to 1 fret above. And if you want, you can do, instead of moving 2 frets above whenever you're on string number 2, can just use the same exact starting fret. So if I'm on frets 6, 8, 10, 6, 8, 10 again, that'll be a repetition of these two notes, but that would still work. So the 3-note per string thing is a good way to play faster and to play sequences. Or any sequence you can think of. That's all going to work, and it's going to give you a shreddy type of sound. Let's hear that. So I'll start in. So that's with a 3-note per string, but there's another shape that you can use that is more within your first position of minor pentatonic or major pentatonic, whichever you're using. And here's that position. It's basically you're going to start the same way, 3 notes. You're not too far out from that original position, but instead of developing that horizontally, we're going to develop it vertically. On the next string, same thing. Next string, but a fret above, but you're only playing 2 notes. And then back to the next string, but 1 fret below. Need to make a close-up here. I'm on the 6th string, frets 3, 5, 7. On the next string, only 2 notes, 4, 6. Next string, 3, 5, 7 again. Next string, 4, 6. Well, one more time. Next string, just 2 notes again, 4, 6. And the first string, 3, 5, 7. One more time, from the 6th string to the 1st string, we'll have 3, 5, 7. 4, 6. 3, 5, 7. 4, 6. 4, 6. 3, 5, 7. The advantage of that is that no matter where you're at, within your position, you're very close to your minor pentatonic scale that you can kind of visualize here, and you can go back to it really easily. As a matter of fact, some of the notes and the whole tone scale are common to your minor pentatonic scale or major pentatonic scale. You can do that with a major too. So if I have a major pentatonic, it's all going to work. Any questions so far on this scale? It's a very unique scale, but the whole tone scale is a great scale to get outside easily because it's symmetrical. We'll have times for questions at the end. I'll leave 10 minutes and we can talk a little bit. Let's move on to the diminished scale, which is another really interesting scale. It's kind of symmetrical also, and it can be used to add tension. There are 2 diminished scales, and those scales are in your diagrams also. I am looking a little confused because I can't remember if I added them or not. I can check really quick. Let's see, I want to make sure, and if not, I'll send you a follow-up with those scales. Let's see. I'm going to open that PDF. Well, I actually have it right here. I forgot. Yep. The whole tone scale. There are two types of whole tone scales. The one that I added here is, I'm sorry, diminished. I forgot to add that. No, it's right here. Sorry, it's right here. There are two types of diminished scales. Diminished scale is either a scale that starts with a half step or a scale that starts with a whole step. So there's two types. And both are as valid in the blues. It doesn't matter. So the one that I wrote here is the one that starts with a half step. And basically the construction of that scale is you're going to alternate half steps and whole steps. Half step, whole step, half step, whole step, all the time. So one diminished scale starts with a half step, so half step, whole step, half whole, half whole, half whole. The other one is the other way around, whole half, whole half, whole half. They're both diminished scales. So if I wanted to build, even if you don't know the position, but a diminished scale, a G diminished scale, I could start with a half step. So my G, 1 fret above, that's a half step. 2 frets above, that's a whole step. Half step above half, whole, half, and so forth. Or I could do it the other way around. Start with a whole step, and then a half, whole, half. Those are valid options. Let's take a look at the chart here. It's on page 18, and this will be a diminished scale, a half step, whole step diminished scale. So we'll use that one, half, whole, half, whole. The 3-note per string shape of that is going to have 4 notes per strings. And then once you know those 4 notes, you can develop that all over the fretboard. We'll start in G, and the first 4 notes are G, a half step above, a whole step above, and a half step above. You make a close-up, and I'll talk a little bit about the fingering. So on the 6th string, frets 3, 4, 6, and 7. This is quite an awkward position if you're using 1 finger per fret, because you have wide stretch between the middle and the ring finger. That's really weird. So instead of doing that, we'll use 3 fingers, and there's 2 options. You can either do index, middle, pinky to play those first 3 notes, 3, 4, 6, and then pinky again for the 7. Or you can slide it. So in this case, the pick would be 3 picks. Pick, 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 no pick. Pick, 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 no pick. Pick, 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 slide. Or you can do index, index, middle, I'm sorry, index, index, ring, pinky. It's up to you. And the more you can do, the better. But let's use for this, we'll use index, middle, pinky, slide. Then you do the same exact thing on the next string, but this time you'll start on 1 fret above, on 4th fret. And this is very convenient because since you slid here, your index is in position already. And then remember, between strings 2 and 3, there's always this weird thing. So instead of moving if you're moving 1 fret above, you'll have to move 2. You're always adding 1. So on the 2nd string, you should start on fret number 8. Okay, so this would work over a G7 chord, a G dominant 7, a G blues. So let's hear that scale over that G7. It's going to sound tensed, of course, because that's the goal. It might sound out of context, but then if we use it where we're supposed to use it, it's going to sound a little better. But let's hear it just over a G7. Sounds a little out, but a decent. So there's some tension and release because we land on that root. So again, this is a symmetrical scale. There's a lot of different things you can do with it, and because it's symmetrical, it's easy to memorize and easy to develop new licks. That was a horizontal way of playing that scale, which is great for faster runs, but it's not great for focused improvisation. Focused improvisation usually happens in the same area of the fretboard to begin with, because you can really focus on the intervals and you can visualize them. So the second shape that is on page 18 is more of a vertical way of playing that scale. Notice that the first note, the root here on the second position, it's a transparent note. It doesn't mean that you don't have to play it. I'm sorry, this is awkward. It's awkward to hold with glasses, so that's why I'm moving a lot. But the second position on your chart, the root is transparent. It's kind of white there. And it doesn't mean that you can't play it, but that's your visual reference point. And then you can start playing it, and then we're going to shift to the right to play our position in a 3-note per string way, but vertical. So let's do this in G. So we've got our root, then we're going to slide. And from here I'm going to show you the shape which is symmetrical. And then just remember that we're starting really a half step above the root. We're not starting on the root, but that root is still in context. So here's that shape. We're starting on the minor second, a half step above the root. So if the root is G, we'll start on the 4th fret of the 6th string. And here's that shape. On the 6th string, we'll use frets 4, 6, 7. So that should be index, ring, pinky. On the next string above, instead of using index, ring, pinky, we'll use index, middle, pinky. So again, index, ring, pinky. Next string, index, middle, pinky. The two outside notes are played with the index. The two left notes, index. Two right notes, pinky. And then the middle note, the first time is played with the ring, next time with the middle. Once you have that down, we use the same exact thing on the next string, but 1 fret below. Okay? On the next string, the next 2 sets of strings are exactly the same. They're going to be index, ring, pinky, index, middle, pinky, starting on the 3rd fret. In other words, strings 4 and 3 are similar to strings 2 and 1. And you have your root there. And this position is great because you're in the same zone as the minor pentatonic or the major, or the hybrid with the minor and the major third. Let's hear that in context. I'll play the 3-note per string horizontal and then vertical, just to see how it spreads out on the fretboard over a G. Here's the horizontal. Here's the vertical. Sorry, I kind of messed up that one. Or okay. By the way, this horizontal position. See where I'm ending? I can descend that, of course. But I was ending on the first string 13th fret, which is the left note of the 5th position of the minor pentatonic scale. Because I have my root on the 15th fret of the 1st string, 2 notes below, position 5. That's the first note of my descending lick of the diminished scale. So we can use that. Maybe we're phrasing on the 1st position of minor pentatonic in G, maybe an octave higher. Moving to the 5th position. And I'm all the way up there and I want to go all the way down, so this diminished lick descending can be a great transition. Okay, let's hear that in context. This time I'll try to stick to a minor pentatonic scale, but I'm going to try to combine some diminished elements and some whole tone elements, and see if you can recognize it. First, I'll let you know which one's which, and then see if you can recognize. I'll start purely minor pentatonic. We're in G. Start with simple sentences, just so that you're not out of context. It's just minor pentatonic, going through different positions. Whole tone. Back to minor pentatonic. I'm going to try to descend the diminished. That was diminished right there. Back to pentatonic. Whole tone. And I landed on a note of the minor penta. And then I can use them major third in the minor penta. Minor penta, and then I'll go to diminished right here. Back to penta. Let's see if you can recognize what I'm doing. That is whole tone scale. A little diminished. more diminished. And so forth. So those two scales really are the most used scales, but I also included the augmented scale on there, which is another interesting scale that you can use to add tension. The augmented scale, and that should be, I think, the last page. Yep, on the last page, page 20, is also a symmetrical scale, and you can kind of see, if you look at that first position, which is written in G. Sorry, I'll move this. And look at the top position. You see what's happening? Those horizontal lines, diagonal, 2 notes per string. That's very symmetrical. And I wrote one of them right here below. And as a visual reference point, you have your root, which in this case is G, 6th string, 3rd fret. And if I look up, there is that symmetrical thing happening with the root and then a note just below the root, which is the major 7th, and then it builds vertically like that. Then you have the same shape starting from the minor 3rd. Let's try it from the minor 3rd. Let's take a look at that shape. I'm going to start with the minor 3rd of G. Where am I? Right here. Minor 3rd is on the 6th string, 6th fret, which is the 2nd note of a minor pentatonic. From here, I've got 2 notes. Next string, 1 fret below, 2 note. Next string, 1 fret below, 2 note. Next string, 1 fret below, 2 note. Next string, same fret. And next string, 1 fret below. So you can use that and create your own patterns. Why not from the minor 3rd, skip the next note in the scale and play the what is it? It's a major 3rd. Use the same shape across diagonally. A lot of different things that you can do there. Let's hear that in context. Or the G7. Very interesting sound. I really like that major. So we have 3 tools to use. We have the whole tone scale, the diminished, and the augmented. With these 3 different tools, 3 scales, just remember that the important part is not to overdo it and just use it as transitional tools, and don't start with them right away. Start them later, later in your conversation, your improvisation, your solo. First, you want to really ease in with very simple ideas. It's going to give confidence to the listener, but also to you as a player, because you don't have to be like, oh man, how am I going to do that lick? You just ease into it, and in the back of your mind have that rhythm flow. And so forth. That's basically what I wanted to share with you. We're at the end of our class already, but I hope that this was beneficial for everyone. We have a few minutes left, and it's time for questions. If people have questions, please, now's the time. And remember to develop these ideas along with backing tracks. I'm not saying that because I want to sell you backing tracks. You can get some online for free, and I encourage you to do that. But I also encourage you to check out guitarplayback.com for backing tracks. But because really you need to have a context. A solo or an improvisation, if it's not played along with the backing track, it's just like a monologue that you're just talking to yourself, which can be good for practice, but try to really develop those ideas in context of a conversation, which is the backing track is going to be your context, your conversation. What else? Practice slowly, of course, and try to anticipate the sound of every note that you're going to play. That's going to enhance your ability to create something that that expresses who you are, as opposed to just playing licks that you've heard before. Developing who you are as a musician is very important, I think, because I think that people have things to say that are worth hearing. Next Saturday, I have another class. The tickets are available right now for the same price. We're going to talk about arpeggios. I think I might do this live kind of class for, well, I don't know until when, but so far I enjoy it, so I'll keep doing it since I have time. The tickets are available right now, and we're going to talk about arpeggios. More in a fusion jazz rock type of situation. So melodic arpeggios, giving you ideas to develop your own musical personality, which is what this is all about. And your ticket gives you your current ticket right now that you got for this class. There's a $5 voucher for guitarplayback.com, so you can get some blues backing tracks maybe to develop some of these ideas. I would recommend the Blues Jam Track Pack, which was used a lot to come up with some of the content today, and the licks that are on your charts, on your PDF chart, can be used with these backing tracks. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm glad this worked. Like I said, this is being recorded, so I'm not sure how long it's going to take to process the video. But it should be available, I would say, by tonight if you want to watch it again with the same link. And also, I'll ask, please don't share the link around. I trust you guys. And thank you so much for being here and for your support. I will see you hopefully next Saturday. Tickets are on sale right now. Same time. And it's going to be recorded also, so if you did not get a chance to watch this whole thing, or next week if you can't make it, then it's going to be recorded also. And thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everyone, and good night. I know that some of you are tired because it's probably late for you. Paul has a great question here. How long does it take before you can get back in? It depends on... First, don't go out right away, because you gotta seduce the listener first. If you're starting playing out right away, he's gonna leave and not pay attention. So spend maybe at least two turns of chords before you start going out, and then you can play out a long time if you want. But the longer you stay out, the bigger focus it's gonna take for you to be outside, but yet be in control. And the control aspect element for me is the rhythm element. So if you stick to if you don't feel lost in your rhythm flow, then you can afford to stay out for a while. But the longer you stay out, the bigger the chance is to completely mess up your going back in. And if you mess up your going back in after a long time playing out, that's pretty bad. But if you mess up your going back in after just you know, a couple bars, then it's forgivable. Anything's forgivable, really, but it's all up to you. And yes, I will go over the diminished run again. I'm assuming you're talking about the horizontal one. So I'll do it ascending. We're in G, and we can use either the index or the pinky as a slide to go to the next fret. But let's use the pinky to slide. So I have frets 3, 4, 6. Slide 1 fret. Next string. Same exact thing, but I'll start on the 4th fret this time. On the next one, you're going to go 2 frets above. And the descending one was pinky. So I'm on the first string, frets 13, 12, 10, and slide 1 fret. Same thing on the next string, but this time you'll start on fret number 12. Next string, fret number 10. Next, 9, 8, 7. Oops, sorry. Okay, I hope this works. Thank you so much, everyone. Darren is asking another great question. And thank you very much, Bram. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Darren is asking if I'm using major 7th chords for major scales and minor 7th chords for minor scales. It depends what kind of music, but for the blues type of thing, I'm using minor 7th chords and dominant 7th. The difference is the type of 7th that you use. A major 7th has a major 7th, which is it. A dominant 7 has a minor 7. In blues, you don't hear a major 7th very much. You wouldn't really hear a blues like. You'd hear mostly dominant. So dominant 7th with the minor 7th. Gary is asking if there's any benefits to using all 4 fingers for the run. I don't know if there's any benefits. Maybe the benefit would be if you're an alternate picking type of person and you really like that kind of sound. But I found it very difficult because of that stretch there. And plus, I'm not a big fan of. For my playing, I love when other people do it, but I think for my playing, I like the slide. So the picking would be 3 picks and nothing. Kind of messed up the end there, but that's the idea. Thanks, everyone. I hope to see you next week, and I will see you soon on YouTube anyways, and until next time, have a great weekend.